meeting, the April 25th meeting of the Sacramento Environmental Commission to order. Jill, can you please read your statement?
SEC meetings now take place in person at the Environmental Management Department and also via Zoom. Meetings are recorded in their entirety and available for viewing within 24 hours. This meeting of the SEC will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse. Meeting replays are closed captioned and streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting will be aired on Saturday, April 30th at 1 p.m. and Tuesday, May 3rd at noon on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/MetroCable14.
Thank you. Can you do the roll call now?
Mark White.
Here.
Richard Hunn.
Here.
Tom Mulson.
Here.
Laura Nickerson. Eric Rivera Montez.
Here.
Stephanie Holstedge.
Here.
Dr. Anthony DeRigi.
Here.
Kayla Raby.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Normally we go through the room and introduce ourselves, a couple sentences on who we represent and what we did or do for a living. So why don't we start with the screen this time with Tom?
All right. My name's Tom Mawson, and I represent the cities of Folsom, Ileton, and Galt. I'm a retired engineer from Aerojet, worked out there 35 years. And good evening.
Thank you, Tom. Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Holstedge. I'm a senior environmental scientist with the State Water Board. I'm currently working on the Salton Sea project, and I've also previously worked with Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Thank you. Kayla?
Hi, I'm Kayla. I'm still continuing my education, and I plan to major and study environmental science.
Richard.
Hi, I'm Richard Hunn, represent Sacramento County, and I'm a retired environmental planner with about 35 years of experience in environmental compliance.
Eric.
Eric Rivera Montez. I'm currently employed with SMUD, Sacramento Municipal Utility District, in their environmental services team. I'm a representative for the city of Elk Grove, and I focus primarily on greenhouse gas reporting and climate change issues.
Tony.
I'm Tony DeRigi. I represent the city of Sacramento. I'm a retired physician, and I led the environmental stewardship program at Kaiser Permanente.
Hi, good afternoon or good evening. My name is Jania Monasterio. I represent EMD. I'm the interim director. I'm currently the interim director. Before I was the environmental health program manager, and before that I worked in environmental compliance with Sacramento County for 7 years, an additional 7 years with Napa County.
Thank you. And I'm Mark White. I have worked in the waste management industry, and I represent the county. With that, have we got a statement we read with respect to speakers, public comments?
If anyone has public comment, speakers are limited to 3 minutes for each separate item, including any matter not on the posted agenda.
Thank you. Our presentation tonight is on the Delta Islands Adaptation Project. Russell Ryan. There he is. Hey, Russell.
How are you guys? Good to be here. So I'll go ahead and start it off. I think this is the time for the presentation, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm really happy to be here, and thank you, members of this commission, for the invitation. We're going to present on a planning grant that Metropolitan received from CDFW. I'm Russ Ryan again. I'm going to give you a little bit of some background and some context. Brett Milligan, who's from UC Davis, will dive into more details of what we call the Delta Island Adaptation and approaches for Metropolitan's islands. So I am the manager from Metropolitan on this grant effort, and have been working in the water industry for 25 years plus. I moved and am currently a resident of Woodland since 2017. I've been working in Delta-related issues for Metropolitan for the past 15 years. So basically, it's I'm a Delta, study it and learn it and regurgitate it back out to the public. By way of brief background, the brainstorming of this effort began several years ago with a handful of us engineers and scientists sitting around a conference table much like yours and laying out various potential restoration opportunities that for Metropolitan's islands that could provide in meeting certain objectives, and those will be described later. In 2017, Metropolitan purchased the 4 islands, about little over 20,000 acres. And so, with that comes stewardship of those properties. And moving forward, we received this grant in about around 2020. This effort will provide expertise into a science-based restoration effort that uses a landscape island-wide approach in dealing with land restoration planning. It's intended to reestablish, and that's just to name a few, some habitat and ecosystem functions, and manage lands for sustainable agriculture. And there's some challenges in that, and Brett will go through some of that. Testing native fish preservation concepts, sequestration of carbon, stopping and or reversing land subsidence, and providing for reduction of contaminants to improve water quality. We're also applying a very unique tool referred as structured decision modeling that basically analyzes various elements and applies criteria, value weights, and rankings when comparing various adaptation opportunities within the same family or against each other. In the big picture, all these potential concepts will be consistent with the state's co-equal goals policy, which includes protecting and enhancing the unique cultural, recreational, natural resources and agricultural values, along with supporting economic opportunities in the Delta. I'm really excited because this is the very first planning grant of this scale. And it's looking at, like I said before, a little over 20,000 acres. In a broader vision, as opportunities are brought to implementation down the road, there'll be opportunities for further inclusion and collaboration for others to participate in the ideas, concepts, and eventual projects that will result of this planning effort. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Brett, and he can make his introduction and present his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ, for the introduction. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Okay, everybody seeing my slide?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, thank you for the invitation to present on our work, and thank you all for introducing yourself. I was kind of curious who might be at this meeting, so I appreciate that. Again, I'm Brett Milligan from UC Davis, Department of Human Ecology in the landscape architecture. And yeah, I think our goal here is to give you an overview of the project, where we are up to date, and then hopefully, I guess, if you have questions or anything, we can try to answer them. Oh, oops, I have the wrong keyboard. So overall project goal and description is to try to increase the resiliency and sustainability of the islands in the Delta owned by Met. And these are all in the Central Delta, and like other islands in the Central Delta, many of them are deeply subsided and below sea level and are vulnerable to climate change. There's a lack of habitat for meeting ecological goals in this area. And they are key to meeting the co-equal goals of the state of both water supply and ecosystem restoration, as well as valuing the Delta as an evolving place. There's a link there. That's our website for the project. You can just pretty much keyword Delta Island adaptations and it'll take you there. So if you're not familiar with subsidence, it's when you basically when you take the water off of peat or wetland soils, they atrophy. They pretty much, they go up into the atmosphere, as you see in these diagrams on the left here. The CO2 goes up, which also increases emissions. They compact. So you get this condition that you see on the right where land elevation actually goes way down, and you end up with channels and water that's actually higher than the land surface. Here's a map of that. So what you're seeing on the left shows you actual elevations of the 4 islands that are in this study owned by Met. And the reddish areas those are at least 15 feet below sea level, if not greater. And so that makes these vulnerable to potential levee breaches. If the levees were to breach, you would basically have an open water tidal lake there. The image on the right is showing you the rates of the subsidence, and where you see those more warm colors, that's where they're subsiding the fastest. Again, like that image you saw in the last slide. So this is one of the issues that we're trying to really get at with this project, is this vulnerability that's on these islands. A little bit about the grant itself. Again, Russ already mentioned this. It's through California Department of Fish and Wildlife under the leadership of Hildy Spouts. This is our project team. Russ is the manager from Met. For the hydrology and ecology part of our project, that's Steve Deverell, Jose Diaz, and Mark Olds from HydroFocus. Structured decision-making, that is Compass Resource Management with Dan and Alon. And then the outreach, co-design, and design integration, that's myself, Alejo Kraus-Polk, and a new person, Thomas, who are 2 students who are working on this project. But our team is rather small compared to the advisory and technical groups that we have helping us through this process. So this is a listing of basically all of the different agencies that are helping us and advising through this entire process that we go through. I won't list everybody here because there's a lot of people I'm going to be showing. So this is our technical advisory committee. And then in addition to them, we have a set of expert consultants who are also part of this TAC. And these are people with specific knowledge that we've asked to help us with thinking about the adaptation of these islands, whether it's around levees, it's around agriculture, sustainable ag, whether it's around ecocultural restoration and indigenous land management. We have all of these different folks on the team. Project itself, it's divided into 2 phases. The first is to try to pick which island do we want to work on. Each of these 4 islands presents many opportunities for adaptation. It's kind of a question of which things do we want to go for, what kinds of things do we want to learn, where might the biggest benefits be. So that's phase 1, and then phase 2 is whatever island is selected, we will then do a deep dive into thinking about some sort of mix of land uses that would be designed for that island. And we would run multiple scenarios of what that might be. This is otherwise known as a landscape mosaic. And what that means, again, is this is showing an example. This is another one in the Delta called Staten Island. And a landscape mosaic is a mosaic of land uses that would be put on the island, and deciding, how much of one use versus another, whether that's tidal wetlands, whether that's floating wetlands, whether that's rice production, working through what the different benefits and outcomes might be from the different divisions of land use out here. We are using a co-design process, if that term is new to you. Basically what this means is collaborative problem solving and innovation outcomes achieved through an inclusive and equitable design process. The co there refers to collaboration. And we mean it's collaborative in terms of involving everyone who might be impacted by, a design or plan. So such as nearby residents, Delta residents, the state as a whole. It's collaborative in terms of integrating knowledge from a range of experts. Those are from different disciplines, as well as the local knowledge of those who live there, local landowners, service providers, and so forth. So bringing all those folks together to collaborate. And design here is broadly conceived as intentional and creative ways of bringing about a desired change from a current condition. So we are using a co-design process that tries to include all these folks. And as Russ mentioned, doing that with what's called structured decision-making. And essentially what this is right from the start, you transparently try to set your objectives. What do we want to do here? What are we trying to get to? And then you sort of start to come up with your design alternatives and start to iterate through those and think about, okay, are we meeting our objectives? If we're not, you go back to the drawing board, start again. You look at the consequences of those designs, and you kind of repeat this process in an iterative way. So the idea here is that everybody agrees on what your goals are. You're very transparent in setting them, and then everybody kind of moves through this learning process, learning from one another and learning in the actual design process itself. What's in project scope? There's a lot of things here. So the first is this iterative co-design process I just talked about. We are shooting for the development and evaluation of multiple adaptation strategies that look 40 to 50 years out in time, while also considering a no action business as usual alternative, so we can see how the design alternatives compare to that. Again, looking at a wide range of land use opportunities and adaptations to deal with subsidence reversal, greenhouse gas emissions, habitat improvement, and I'll get more into these objectives in a few slides. Looking for co-benefits in terms of levee improvements, recreation, supply reliability, indigenous land stewardship, and considering alternatives representing a variety of stakeholders, government, local community interests, and so forth. So these items are all part of what's included in the project. What's not included in the project? Project has no sway or influence over water export operations decisions, over water quality standards decisions. Those are all decided elsewhere from a policy point of view, regulatory point of view. Levy investment prioritization decisions, that's also decided elsewhere, and local area infrastructure planning. So these are not within the scope of our project, and we are trying to be very clear of what we can and cannot do as part of our efforts. A little bit about our schedule. This is phase one. And so we are, as of last month, we hit this target. We had 2 TAC meetings, and we had our first public meeting where we basically had set out what our objectives might be and introduced those draft objectives to the public, launched a public survey. And now we're moving towards that TAC 3 meeting, which we're going to have in a month. And at that, we will be bringing some of the public input that we've gotten that I hope to hopefully get you all to add your input as well. I'll talk about that in a minute. But we'll have a third final meeting, and this is for island selection, and then MET will decide based on everything that's been learned through this process, which island will be the one selected. That will then take us into phase 2. That'll pick up in around September of this year, and then we'll go through that winter working through those different scenarios for the different islands. So basically finishing the project out around May 2023. And this is where we are of working through these draft objectives that we have. There's 10 of them for the project. This is what we introduced at the public meeting. And I will just do a quick walk through all of these and tell you a little bit about them. So subsidence. We are hoping to stop or actually reverse subsidence. Reverse subsidence is when you actually try to gain back elevation. You can do that through various means such as floating wetlands or impounded wetlands. And the idea here is to try to stop that and to also stop the emissions that happen through that. So that's our second one, is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions as much as possible. Larger goal. Implementing sustainable and regenerative agriculture. So we're looking at different practices of how this might be done. And this could include polluticulture, which is basically agriculture within a wet environment. Rice, regenerative agriculture, and organic agriculture. Improving ecological habitats and functions. We are looking at a variety of habitats, anything from upland to tidal or riparian ecosystems. We're looking at floating and non-tidal wetlands, tidal wetlands, upland transition areas. This will all be part of how we try to think about these land mosaics. Broader ecological benefits. The project is, firmly ends at the edge of the island, but there are potential benefits that would be for the wider delta, whether that's primary food production, habitat connectivity, or what it connects to other places. So we're also trying to look at this as an objective. Ecocultural restoration, we do have 2 tribal representatives on our TAC who we're trying to work through how this might benefit the indigenous Delta tribal nations. So fostering ecocultural restoration and indigenous land use within this process, and how the restoration or ecological restoration can also have a cultural element. Increasing recreational and placemaking opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities for this, whether it's hunting, fishing, walking on levee trails, boat launches, picnic areas. We're looking at a variety of ways for improving or adding recreation in the Delta. Maintaining water quality and supply. If one of these islands were to fail, there'd be a lot of problems around salinity intrusion and so forth. So again, trying to improve and maintain water quality. Economics, to come up with a sustainable economic way of adapting on these islands. And this is a key part of the landscape mosaic idea of trying to figure out what that configuration might be to make it so that it's can be economically sustained. And lastly, learning and collaboration. We're trying to look at how we can foster partnerships and collaboration in this project. I've talked about some of that with the other objectives, but who else can partner and bring into this process? So again, trying to increase its sustainability across time. And yeah, that pretty much brings us to date. And what I'd like to encourage you all to do is we did at the public meeting, we launched this public survey. And I can, when I'm done with the presentation, I can throw it in the chat. And the idea here is we're asking people to say, how would you weigh these 10 objectives? We're also asking individual questions about each of the objectives, such as if you're from the agricultural community, it's a geospatial one where you can go in and pinpoint things that you think are important, that you think need to be preserved or that are key. If you're an ecologist, there's ways that you can say where you think restoration should be prioritized. If you're a recreationist, you can tell us where you think recreation would be desirable. So there's a fair amount of questions that are asked in this survey. And we'd really appreciate it if you would take it and your constituents as well. You can freely distribute that, and I can send the flyer if that's of interest. We have to do it soon. Our survey closes at the end of this month. And that's a page from it. It gives you a sense of what it looks like. Pretty user friendly.
I think that one of the things I would like to emphasize is that we know that there are short-term and near-term and long-term adaptations so we keep that in mind and are very mindful of it. But what's really important in this is that there's a big opportunity here because it's science-based. We've gone to UC Davis, which is a great source of the science, technologies and expertise in the individual areas. We're looking for creating an environment where we can collaborate together. This is not something Matt comes in and says, okay, this is the way it's going to be. No, this is an effort that we've committed to open transparency here so folks can ask the questions. I actually believe in debate is good, because I think what comes out of debate is the best product if we are all on the same page and serving the same objective. So I just kind of like to leave that with you. And if you do get a chance to take the survey, it definitely would be appreciated.
Thank you. Is that your entire presentation then?
Yes.
Good. We don't want to go on to questions before we get to the end. So why don't we start with commissioners that are on the screen to see if any of you all have a question. If you do, just raise your little hand. Okay, Tom.
I noticed throughout the presentation with all these different groups involved and everything, to meet their objectives, there's got to be some funding stream somewhere. Is that taken into consideration anywhere, and where this funding's going to come from, or who's going to, what entities are going to help you with that?
Yes, we have a couple sources of that. We have an internal grant team that looks for opportunities through grants. And then we also have I'll give an example. We have like a Delta smelt propagation area that we're considering, and I've gone to Metropolitan and said, hey, we need to develop a CIP program for that, for building it and getting through the permits and all that. And so we do have METS is serious about this and is putting in money towards those efforts through our own CIP program. And then part of the commitment too is up in our Sacramento office, we have several scientists that we've hired that are also part of review and taking in consideration as it applies to their expertise, whether it's salmon, Delta smelt, flood levees, those kinds of things that are important in the mix. So the answer to your question is we're always looking, it's like everybody, always looking for money.
Yeah.
But we have a very purposeful process to look at different grants and varying grants. And again, this gets down to collaboration and relationships. I have a very good relationship with Delta Conservancy, with Campbell Ingram there. And we're looking at some of his grant opportunities to help fund some of these activities. Now, remember, there's also pilot projects. There could be science studies. There could be a whole bunch of things that come out of this. And but we're very cognizant of how does it get paid for.
Well, as part of, if you're basically talking about grants and grant funding here. As part of that, would there be an opportunity here for this commission to perhaps help out by providing some kind of a letter supporting some of these grants when that time comes due?
Yes, that's a really good question with regards to Tom. That is an excellent question because as you have a commission, we have our own board, and we be presenting this, and that could be a good opportunity for you to help us in the sense of if you're all aligned with us on it and provide that kind of an input and letter to our general manager, for example, that he could present to the board. That would go a long way.
And would this be for each of those separate grants? or one
Well,
to cover them all?
You can certainly put them in their categories and cut down the language, so to speak. I mean, you could do a general letter and then we can talk details in the meantime.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have questions on the screen? Kayla.
Yeah, hi. I was just looking at some of the pictures you were showing, and I noticed like a lot of like combined areas and like guidelines between wetlands and agriculture. I was just wondering if you guys have like set guidelines and regulations in like mind to see like the guidelines and where you're going to draw the line between, of course, what needs to be used for agriculture, but also what needs to be preserved for like wetlands, considering that they're being retracted more and more in California.
That's another really good question because, and this also goes back to Tom's question. One of the opportunities here, there's wet areas. I'll just use this as an example. There are wet areas that farmers have said, I can't farm in there or I lose my equipment. So we've got those already mapped and delineated. So we could take a concept like that and build a project out of that where it stops subsidence, but also reduces greenhouse gas emissions, and then go to the ARB, Air Resources Board, and through their cap and trade, develop credits and create a revenue stream or apply it to our own carbon footprint. Or if it's even better, we could even help the state out on its carbon neutrality by 2045. So there's some big picture ideas on how to interlace those kinds of opportunities. But you're absolutely right. There are areas that are delineated, and the regulation part is basically, how do we connect to some of those regulatory requirements?
Thank you. Kayla, any follow-up? In that case, Stephanie, you have any questions? No questions? Questions from the room? Eric?
Sure. I'm always kind of curious when it comes to these sequestration numbers. Do you have any kind of sense of how much we're talking, just maybe a general factor or how much you expect to get from this?
That's a good question too, because I did my homework. I'm smiling because I kind of know the answer to this. If I was in an interview, I'd be successful. We did take a look at it. One of the variables in the soil is the organic matter. And so with the peat soils and that high organic matter, you realize a greater net benefit of keeping this carbon into the soil if you do something else like rice or wet it with managed wetlands or, some other kind of agriculture that creates a ground cover, for example. And we took a look at just in all the 4 islands and based on some real average numbers for organic soils that have been measured in these 4 properties. It's somewhere about 200,000 carbon equivalent, CO2 equivalents. And, again, that can vary plus or minus when you actually get out there. And the nice thing about the regulatory process is there's certification of those credits. So you basically say, okay, this area, we think based on the model and using eddy covariance stations that measures the carbon fluxes, based on that baseline information, we think so much credits. And then a third party verifier comes out that verifies those credits to be true and accurate.
And does that 200,000 metric tons annually or?
That's an annual number.
An annual number, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Richard.
Yeah, and thanks, Brett and Russ, for your presentation. What's the motivation of Metropolitan Water District to be leading this project up and funding this effort?
Well, part of it is there's the age-old conflict between the environment and water supply. And we certainly know about all the lawsuits that are behind in the past. My general manager is about inclusion. So we got a new general manager who's about inclusion, collaboration, and innovation. He calls it the 3 I's. And the big part of it is the inclusion because we want to solve some of the challenges that are in the Delta from an ecosystem, but we don't want to lose the value of agriculture, for example. So there's a balance that we're trying to create that does offer solutions to those objectives. One of the big drivers here is subsidence. We have Bolden Island is 25 feet below sea level. And all that strain against the levees from the water riverways, you cannot continue to subside. You have to do something different because, as an civil engineer, I came up in 2017 and they said, oh yeah, you're going to deal with these levees that have a structural footprint on top of ground that moves. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Engineers don't like to hear that. We like to build things on firm rock foundation, for example. But there is that, and it's not just a conflict with Metropolitan, it's throughout the Delta. I mean, there's other levees that other folks own. And then there's also the common tie-in, which I believe is water quality. Because if you don't have these levees strong enough and they fail, then it's a detriment to both water supply and agriculture and other uses of these properties. So that would be what I would say.
Okay, thank you. So in the implementation of these restoration actions, are they considered experimental or are they pretty much proven and be pretty secure about how they're going to be implemented and be successful?
Well, we do have, and I'm going to defer to Brett on this a little bit after I say we do have the science behind certain things. Managed wetlands is you go and look at the protocol that our ARB adopted for managed wetlands and rice protocol. So there is some science behind that. We certainly know the engineering on the levees. So we got a lot of that information. The key is bringing them all together to figure out what adaptations are the most pressing versus those that might need a little more science. So Brett, do you have anything to include on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, I mean, one of the goal of the objectives that wasn't overtly said in those is the learning. And I think that we have some of these things that we know, pretty well. But there's other ones that would be more experimental, or like, potentially increasing primary food production and exporting that out into the Delta. And some of the stuff is more experimental, and that is an overt objective of the project, is what can we learn? And that has actually come out in some of the TAC discussions of, you can do many of these things on each of the islands, but in some ways, what do we need to learn? If we're going to adapt, there's a lot of learning to do. And so, I mean, some of the pollutoculture is new to a lot of folks, beyond rice and things like that. So I think the hope is to have an experimental part of these, to some of them, also just at scale of doing them at a larger scale and seeing what you can do, or like the floating wetlands that has not really been tried at that scale as far as I know, and things like that. So it's very much a part of what we're thinking of for it as a learning process, and having that experimentation to learn.
And regenerative agriculture is a new one too that we've looked at, and that provides basic cover, but more from an organic, not from an organic, but a holistic, clean point of view, where you could have basically you're reinvigorating the soil to more of a healthy soil, versus when you grow the corn, you have your Roundup Ready seed, and that just basically kills the soil, and so that becomes more like of a desert. So we got to balance and change the thinking of that, and that's part of what Brett's talking about, the learning part.
What kind of obstacles are you facing for the long-term management of these islands? For instance, I think of fires on peat soils as being a pretty significant hazard. Do you foresee these kind of things affecting your success?
Well, I managed the 4 islands, so I've been through, I could say, a dozen fires, and with peat soil, it's a real challenge out there for various reasons. And the thing about the challenges is, I think coming together and collaborating, it's not a challenge, but it's something that's not commonly done in an effort this large. And my vision is to bring parties to the table and have those synergies and say, okay, here's a conceptual design, how does that look? And we do that through the grant, but obviously we'd reach out to various folks. For example, we reached out to the Restore the Delta and gave them, an overview real quick. And, they're looking at, their organization and how to promote education as well as their challenges. So, a lot of this is, when you say challenges, time is a challenge, because, we haven't had an earthquake. I was actually, do you guys remember the 6.0 earthquake over, I guess, in Nevada? That was probably 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
I actually was sitting on Bolden Island, probably the most sensitive part of the island in the northeast corner, and literally watched the levee, elasticity of the levee move about 6 inches and then move 6 inches back after about 20, 30 seconds of shaking. So there's those challenges of time that we're trying to address as well in the longer term broad brush for, emergency response, making sure. One of the things that we've offered on Bolden is as a regional emergency response center that has large response materials like muscle wall and some sheet pile. So we're actually in the process of developing that and building that out. So those are some of the challenges you don't realize in the long term, but as we move forward, being connected to these opportunities, these restoration opportunities, I think is going to be key, not losing sight of that. So that's a challenge in of itself.
My last question kind of is about how you're coordinating with other programs such as Eco Restore or any of the other state efforts that are going on in the Delta. Are you data sharing? Are you collaborating on results and your approaches and things like that?
We have presented to Eco Restore managers, DBR managers, and some of the federal agencies of what we're doing and reaching out to them for collaboration. And yes, we've even said we have data we're going to share. If they have data, they're going to share. So we have that commitment and moving forward. And they've been largely pretty supportive of what we're doing here. And they have their special interests like Eco Restore. We have a project on Bolden that over the next couple of years we'll roll out, where we actually have a bench on the water side, and that offers the ability to study the salmon as it comes down through the system, or even Delta smelt because of its location. So we've got a lot of those commonality, and that's keeping track. What I find the biggest challenge is people moving on. So there's a constant re-educating the folks coming up. And that's not a problem. That just means you keep it in the back of your mind that, some of these people need to, may not know about. So we're constantly re-educating the agencies as well.
Yeah, I just add in that
Tony.
kind of talking. We have a lot of people who are in on those other efforts that are on our TAC and communing with them. And you guys have probably all heard about the Delta Adapts as well. We're in touch with those folks, and this is almost like a case study within that, if you will, because theirs is more Delta wide. So we're always talking to them, and we're getting feedback from them and so forth. So I think hopefully we're pretty connected.
And the Delta Stewardship Council is also part of that as well.
Conservancy and
Thanks for that presentation. I was wondering, would there be any effects on your islands from the proposed Delta Tunnel project?
Well, that project is not this project. It's in a whole different. And if you do your math, that's 10, 20, 15, 20 years out, before that's constructed. This is not that project. This is something entirely different, trying to answer different questions as we look at ecosystems and land-based type landscapes. One of the things it draws a very stark comparison is back in the mid 1800s, there was so much biomass in the system with all the tules growing laying over. We only have 5% of that left, and that's why it's important. They can look under the ground. We're looking above ground.
Yeah, do you have any questions?
I'm good. Thank
You're
you.
good?
Great presentation.
I've got a couple. What's the budget for your study, and for how many years does that budget cover?
So the budget's 1.1 million up to, and we have a deadline to finish by March 2024. We'll probably come in a little earlier. Fred will either smile or tell me, anything, something different, but that's what it is at this point.
So not to reiterate earlier questions, but how does this project tie to the tunnels? Since it's funded by the same agency that wants the tunnels.
Well, it's not answering the same question as the tunnels. It's not
Is it
the
answering
tunnels.
a question that needs to be answered for the tunnels?
I guess we'll need to ask the tunnels people that. I know their EIRs coming out here shortly, but
Okay.
we do not interact with the tunnels project. It's a complete separate process.
Are there any, you mentioned earlier that there was no consideration of any operational elements of the tunnels associated with your project. Are there any elements of the tunnels that are associated with your project?
No. Just remember the comment on no operations, not just the operations of the tunnel, it's the operations of the projects. So we want to be real clear that this is not touching on those operations, whether it's the CVP or the SWP.
So what's going to happen with the 3 islands you choose not to investigate? Are they going to get the same treatment or something, some variety of that in the future?
We've had some discussions on that. I'm gonna have Brett answer that.
Let me see if I can answer it. I mean, I think we have to start somewhere. I mean, with the TAC, they're all like, well, there's all kinds of amazing things we could do on all of these islands, or we could do one thing on this island and one thing over here, one thing over there. But if we start with one island, there's a lot more we can get out of that in terms of mobilizing and bringing all those resources together. And, and I do think, I mean, we are looking at probably, my guess, getting ahead of myself, my guess is one of the most deeply subsided are going to be one of the ones that are chosen. I could be wrong. But I do think there's the interest to then start to learn from this first one. Hopefully it'll get implemented sometime in the near future. We don't know that either. That's not a guarantee. But then we would then move on to other islands based on what's learned. Whereas I guess if we did all of them, we might learn things from the first one or not have things quite right. So that hopefully, particularly if we're thinking about food production or how exactly to do large scale floating wetlands and things like that, that we can then adapt that adaptation to other spots. But it's also a very large area. Russ, what's the total acreage of all 4 islands? I forget.
20,400 acres, which is, if you look at 6,000 acres that Bolden is, that's why I always tell folks, let's set up a time I can tour you get a whole different perspective. And to Brett's point, one of the things that can come out of this is documenting the other 3 that isn't chosen. And we've had some discussions about, listing as a documentation feature, because there's going to be challenges of near term versus long term. So you can, on the other 3, you can actually have a list of those that have been evaluated that rises to the top.
I think what you're doing is going to be a benefit to a lot of people in the Delta that are sitting on islands watching that water lapping at the top of their dike.
Yeah.
My last question or two is, you mentioned you were funded by grants in the district. What percentage of your funding comes from MWD?
We're tracking that because we're putting in-kind services into that. So, it's probably 10, 15%, something like that.
10 or 15% comes from the district?
In-kind. And then we've got other in-kind, like from the Delta Conservancy and others that contribute to that. Don't quote me on that. I'm just top of my head doing the math.
I was just thinking about cash dollars you'd have to spend having some of your consultants work, for example.
That's another one. That's included as well. Yeah, there is some of that.
I'm confused. I'm easily confused. My kids tell me no. So of the total budget, that budget being used for your consultants, your time, all the rest, you've got in-kind services, but only 10% of that total dollar amount budget comes from Metropolitan Water District?
That's correct.
Boy, you guys need to help us out with grants, because that's great.
Well, what's interesting is the grant actually was 100% in terms of not requiring cash dollars in from Metropolitan. So it's the first one of its kind. So maybe this will be a nice marker for other grants in the future.
Yeah. Any other questions from commissioners? Tom?
Yeah, I've got one follow-up question. I know land use isn't part of the preview of this project. However, developers are always looking for environmental credits, and they're willing to pay for them to get their project off. Like here in Gulf, for an example, we've had developers pay environmental credits on wetlands in Yolo County. So I'm just thinking, is that part of the mix in this future funding down the road?
That actually could be, because as you know, through the Air Resources Board, they have their quarterly auctions with Canada. So, and that's what controls that feature. And you're absolutely right. One of the things that a couple years ago, we had some investors come out and they wanted to take a look, not just Met's property, but Staten Island and other islands as well, for that reason that you just mentioned, Tom. And what they said as a feedback to us was the Delta offers what's called charismatic credits. In other words, that is exactly what they would want to use as advertising to the public to say we're doing our share.
Exactly.
So I certainly understand that and have heard about that. And again, we don't deal directly with those folks. That's through the auction. So that's through another mechanism.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Russ.
Thank you for
Brett.
your time.
You guys, well, not you so much, Russ, but Brett, you're sure generating some good topics for some conferences. We appreciate your coming tonight.
Project.
Yes, and important to us, certainly. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. And I really appreciate this opportunity to have this conversation. Thanks.
Thanks.
And
John.
feel free to reach out anytime. Seriously.
Okay, thank you very much. We shall.
Thank you.
John, have you got something new for us tonight? You always have something new.
Well, hello there. Hi, John Lundgren, Sacramento County Sustainability Manager. I believe Jill has made you aware that the application process for the Climate Emergency Mobilization Task Force is open. I am seeing applications come in. I'll say we have finally reached more applications than seats, but I still want to see the total applications at least triple or quadruple so that we have a great pool of people to select from. And let's see, some other initiatives that I have not just unilaterally decided, but just examining where the county's climate action plan is at and what resistance I see that having, both from development interests and from environmental interests. A number of environmental interests are pushing to have that climate action plan require an environmental impact report, which will put it 2 to 3 years behind where it is now. So as you're aware, the board declared a climate emergency and set a target for carbon neutrality by 2030. So my office will be working on that regardless of what happens with the cap. And so some low-hanging fruit there is going to be to work most diligently with our chief building official on some form of a REACH code or all electric type ordinance, starting with residential new construction. So single family, low rise residential new construction to try to get that construction all electric. And my hopeful timing would be to have that go online January 1, 2023, when the new California Energy Code comes on. That's how we get our most bang for the buck, because that code cycle will last for 3 years. Obviously, a tremendous amount of outreach to happen before that goes, but that's where I'm focusing my time. Once we get through the seating the climate task force. The other two things I'm working on is scoping a new employee commute survey. One of those hasn't been done in a very long time. Working with our general services people on that as well, because we're going to use it for two purposes. One, for me to use in conducting our next greenhouse gas inventory, but three purposes. So second, then to kind of reestablish an employee commute program. We just don't have anybody running an employee commute program to help incentivize alternative modes. And closely related to that, but different regarding electric vehicle charging infrastructure, is to use that employee commute survey to get an idea of how many EVs are in the employee fleet, how many employees are thinking about EVs, and can we incentivize the purchase of those EVs if we enhance our employee electric vehicle charging and continue our practice of providing that charging for free at this point in time. So those are the separate and apart from the cap and whatever happens with that process politically. That's what the Sustainability Office is working on in response to the board's climate emergency. So that's what I have to report. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for John?
Sure. Hi, John. What's the deadline for the task force applications?
If I recall my calendar on the wall, I want to say it's May 13th. So we have a couple weeks left, and if we need, I will extend that time. I was very careful in my board letter to say a minimum of a 30-day process. So I'm not going to rush to close it, but also we do have a sense of urgency. And then I will say also, I had it dialed up here. I'm going to put in the chat a link to the county's Delta Counties Coalition, which is closely related to some of the questions you were asking, Mr. Chair, of our water district colleagues. And so just for your resource, perhaps they've even presented to the SEC before I started coming around. But this is a coalition that Sacramento County leads in partnership with numerous other Delta counties regarding the tunnel project, among other things. So.
Thank you, John. That I will look at that. I never mind. Anybody else have questions for John? Yeah, Kayla.
Yeah, I just had a question. I thought it was really cool that you're aiming for the all-electric housing in the near future. I was just wondering if it's going to be ensured yet that the electricity is like from non-renewable resources, or if that's something that still needs to be waited on.
Oh, thank you for that great question, because you reminded me of two things. So one, there's how the electricity for those all-electric homes is provided, and the other is the whole talk of equity and making that transition. So number one, electricity. SMUD, as we know, we have a SMUD rep in the room, has a 2030 all-electric plan. And in conversations with SMUD's leadership, what we determined was most feasible is that they will get at least to 90% of that plan by 2030. That's kind of been publicly stated by SMUD that the last 10% will be a challenge. But so we believe in very good faith and have stated publicly, and SMUD's nodded that, we really think we'll get 90% there by 2030 already with what we know today. And so by 2030, we are counting on SMUD as our partners to help us meet that, because they are promising to deliver that clean energy. We'll certainly stand by to help them on the other 10% where we can. But your question also had me flash to this whole concept of equity, right? Because those of us that can pay to go all electric, can pay to get off of natural gas, can pay for the upgrades, we end up leaving our EJ communities holding the bag for the aging gas infrastructure and the risks and indoor air quality that goes along with that. What I mean is the indoor air quality of gas ranges and the higher rates of asthma that we see in children in homes that have gas ranges. And so we did just sign a MOU in the last couple of months with SMUD and the city of Sacramento. It's just a no-cost MOU on how we're going to cooperate and share information to assure an equitable transition to all electric. And for all of you that represent our other incorporated cities, we wrote the MOU so that any other incorporated city can sign on and play ball with us just by signing an addendum page. Like I said, it's a no-cost MOU. So if Galt wants to jump in, they just sign an addendum page and say, us too, and here's what we bring to the table as far as sharing and information. And I am taking on the administrative role of that, because the folks at the city had done so much work and SMUD's done so much work. So I'm doing my fair share, and I'm the quote administrator. So anybody that would like to sign on, they can call me directly and I'll help them sign on their city to be part of that MOU.
John, could you share a copy of the MOU with us?
Sure thing.
Yeah.
I have to say that EJ consideration is real important. Happy to see you including it.
Yes.
I have a question for Eric. Where does SMUD lie within the utilities in this country, both public and private, with respect to their all-electric goal?
Yeah, it's pretty ambitious. I mean, as far as I know, I think we're the first to present the 2030 goal.
Which actually said it out loud.
Yes. Yes. It's extremely ambitious.
I think probably PG&E's got a 2230.
Actually, I have another question. John, regarding the building electrification, I happen to be invited to a conference Wednesday evening. Have you been invited to a conference on building electrification? It's on Zoom. I'll forward you the link to it. Sorry for the short notice, but it looks like a really good conference, and it definitely talks about equity issues and health issues. It's got an environmental health aspect to it.
Very good. Sure, I'll look forward to that. And okay. I will send the a link to the MOU. I'll just send a PDF of the MOU to Jill in the morning so she can distribute it through the proper channels to the commission.
Perfect. Well, John, thank you. As I started, when we started this little conversation, you always come up with something new. So our next item is minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to read through the minutes? And do you have any changes? Not hearing any. Do we have a motion to adopt?
I'll move to approve them.
Second?
I'll second.
Jill, can you call the roll?
Richard Hunt,
Yes.
Mark White,
Yes.
Eric Rivera Montez,
Yes.
Laura Nickerson, Tom Mulson,
Aye.
Anthony DeRigi,
Yes.
Stephanie Holstich,
Yes.
and Kayla Raby.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Janaea, welcome. We're here to see you quite a bit in the future. Have you got a report for today?
Yes, I have a couple things to share. EMD is, environmental health is in the 4th month of their retail food waiver. And so that is a retail or a food waiver for permits, for health permits for the retail food industry. And so pretty much all businesses that would have a retail food permit are being offered this waiver, and it's nothing that they have to do. We're just applying it to the invoice. So we're in our 4th month. We'll be doing this for the rest of the year. And by the time the 2022 ends, then all of the restaurant businesses and the retail food businesses will receive a waiver for 2022. Another update is we just posted on our website about the raw Gulf oyster restrictions and the sport harvested mussel quarantine. And so starting at April 1st, it goes all the way through October 31st, raw oysters harvested from the Gulf of Mexico need to go through, be treated scientifically to pretty much reduce or eradicate the Vibrio bacteria. So any oysters that haven't gone through that process, they are considered adulterated and they really shouldn't be used. So they shouldn't be in restaurants.
So this only applies to oysters from Mexico?
From Gulf of Mexico,
Okay.
Correct.
But California grown oysters are not affected?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And on our website, there's a link to CDPH. It has a fact page and all kinds of information. So please check that out. Then we have sports harvested mussel quarantine. And so these are mussels that are sport harvested. And so they're pretty much where the public gathers the mussels. So any mussels that are grown commercially are fine. But then the ones that are harvested, are harvested by the public in these public areas, really they're quarantined at this point because they have, let's see if I can read it. They have what's called paralytic shellfish poisoning, or they're higher known for amnesiac shellfish poisoning. So they say here, I was reading some information on it before I came today. It's kind of scary. And there's no known antidotes to these toxins, and cooking doesn't reliably destroy the toxins. So make sure if you're going out harvesting mussels, no, don't do it.
This quarantine is an annual event, is it? Yeah.
Both of these are annual events.
So presumably those people that do that should know about that already.
They should. But for any of you that didn't know that, don't harvest your own mussels from May 1st through October 31st. So the entire summer.
I'd say January 1st to December 31st.
And then I just also wanted to bring up that we're working on, EMD is working on just receiving the executive order N722, and this is the drought executive order. There's quite a bit into it. Like I said, I was researching it earlier today. There's a lot of elements to this executive order, and it's an increased drought response for the drought conditions that California will be facing. EMD in particular is affected by this executive order with permitting for wells. So wells that are, we get either receive a new permit for a repair to a well, or a new well will have to go through an increased or additional scrutiny in order to have those permits released or reviewed. So part of that, this won't affect domestic wells for our department. So domestic wells will be fine in terms of our review process, but larger, most likely ag wells are going to have to go through a GSA review. They'll have to have concurrence with the well where it's being drilled. And then also they'll have to be able to show that the well won't have any subsidence to infrastructure or will affect other neighboring wells. So we're working through the process right now. We're working with the GSAs in our area. We are working on our application and making sure we get the word out and people are informed of what's going on.
What are GSAs?
The Groundwater Sustainability Agency. So I believe, John, maybe you can help out. I believe there's 5 of them in Sacramento area.
Around 5, I would have said 3, but we're in the right order of magnitude.
3 to 5. So those are these groundwater, these subbasins. Actually, Stephanie might know a lot about this as well.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about the groundwater laws, actually.
it's all new. We've been reading through it. It's a lot with it in terms of all of the particulars. This just came out on March 28th, so it's relatively new, and we're working through it. We're working with a lot of the neighboring counties, other jurisdictions, getting some information so that we can process it.
So, excuse me, what will EMD's role be in that process?
So when well applications come in, whether it's a repair or a new well, when we review it, we have to look at where it's located and then go to that particular GSA and get concurrence from them that the application, the size of it and how much water will be drawing out. And then we also are needing the applicant to show that it will not affect neighboring wells and that will also not affect infrastructure. But like I said, this is more of an effect on larger wells. So domestic, what's called de minimis use wells are not affected by this order. And then so that's less than 2 acre feet per year. So those would be your homeowners or your private wells. So we're talking much larger wells would be affected.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Next item is for us to report back on our coordination or monitoring of environmental issues and agencies. Let's start with the folks on the screen at the bottom right corner this time. Kayla, do you have anything to report?
I actually kind of have sort of like a question as into like if I should look into something. So I think the last like major source of lead poisoning for like the atmosphere and like environment in general is from small plane fuel, since they got rid of like ethyl gasoline. And I was just wondering how I might get into contact with the Sacramento Executive Airport that we have here, since that's full of like these planes that use that exact fuel. And I was wondering if that might be something I could look into and maybe ask them about.
I didn't realize that was the case. Yeah, it seems like you should.
Mr. Chair, I have information if you like.
Sorry.
Oh, yes, please.
So Kaylee, you ask a great question, and yes, indeed, leaded fuel is used in those small general aviation aircraft. And so there was a little bit of there was an electric airplane that was flying into Executive Airport for kind of a media thing. And they ended up bringing a lot of equipment out onto the airfield without kind of permission. One thing led to another, and it led to this conversation happening in our environmental justice communities around Executive Airport about trying to get rid of leaded gasoline. And there's only one airport in California that is trying to ban the lead, well, currently, so trying to ban the leaded gasoline because that airport wants to, or it's said, not my term, but what I've researched, probably that local government wants to see that airport go away so they could redevelop the land. So one thing to be aware of in Sacramento County is with any of our airports where we've accepted FAA grant dollars, it becomes a grant assured airport, and we have to do everything in our power to make sure the airport stays open. And so what happened when this started, this issue started emerging, was there has been a call for us to prohibit leaded gasoline in Executive, but that is something that's probably not appropriate for the county to do at a local level, because there's no, quote, safe alternative at this time for leaded fuel in those aircraft. And so the FAA, right when this broke, had just put out a press release because they are going to start studying it and try to bring it to a resolution. So the last I heard from our Sacramento County airport system, and they're the experts, and I'm speaking on good knowledge from them, but if anything I say is offensive or you want more information, I can certainly facilitate getting airports people out. but they are watching and standing ready when the FAA comes out with their recommendations. Because of course, what we don't want is aircraft flying around with leaded fuel and then they land here and they get a different fuel that doesn't work in that aircraft engine. That becomes an issue of safety too. So an airplane crashing can be bad as well. But Kayla, you're absolutely right. ADL, aerially deposited lead, is a problem. And it used to be that we looked for that along freeways because we used leaded gasoline in cars. And you are absolutely right. I was surprised to learn as you. I only learned this a couple of months ago that they still use it in those small general aviation aircraft. And so I will look for that FAA link right now, see if I can find that news story. And if Jill, if you ever want me to put you in touch with the right people at the airports, I can do that.
And being a pilot, I can add to that the FAA actually controls what goes in the engines, how often the engines are rebuilt and inspected and everything else. And you have to remember the aircraft engines are built light for weight. So they use the leaded gas because of the valves in the engine. So it would be a major change, and it would be nationwide, if not global, for that. So yeah, it's an issue. And I don't know any of that. Well, they're going electric, so that may be the answer.
Even if there's no solution to it, it'd still be interesting to know what's the poundage of lead being spread over the neighborhoods within, say, 2 to 3 miles of the airport on an annual basis. And especially for executive, which is in an EJ-focused community down there. So I don't know how that could be studied, but it would be definitely interesting information to find out.
The Air Board should know.
That'd be no source.
The Air Quality Management District ought to know as well. They're really into EJ. That's a really good question.
Yeah,
And the shooting range by the airport got blamed for a lot of the lead contamination too. I wonder how much of that is over the years, how much is the shooting range and how much is the airport, because it's right next to the airport. So, yeah, I mean, an interesting question, interesting study.
Yes.
Yeah, Kayla, it might be interesting to see if you can get some information from the county public health department if they've detected high lead levels, in homes under the runway or, near the airport. I'm not sure how to get that information, but I can look into that for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely try my best too.
Stephanie, have you got something for us?
I don't have any updates to announce today.
Anybody in the room with me have updates?
I was going to give a quick update on SMUD. So in addition to their 2030 plan, they recently started to move towards electrifying their own operations. And so one thing I just kind of wanted to point out is they have a plan to electrify their fleet by 2030. So just wanted to kind of announce that. I know that that's in the works, and that's something that'll hopefully be ambitious as well.
Yeah.
The heavy duty is always the challenge, and so that's going to be an issue. But
There's been some effort at electrifying garbage trucks.
yes,
Doubles the cost.
yeah, it's
I've been following the American River
Of
issues,
course.
and there is actually an issue coming up right now. There's a 41-acre property just downstream of Riverbend Park. It's been called the Cassis property, and I think it's in Rancho Cordova, which unfortunately I don't believe we have a representative from Rancho Cordova here. But in any case, I think we should follow this. The developer just purchased it from the Cassis family, and is planning to a big subdivision of homes, including 20 acres right in the floodplain of the American River. So that's going to have effects on flood control. And anyway, but it is private property. So it's an interesting problem going on. I've been invited to go on a tour. So that's another issue. We could do a tour if we wanted to find out more. I'll try to find out more about it. Maybe there could be a future presentation about this.
It'd be interesting to know what kind of legal restrictions were required for property that's in the floodplain.
Yes, that would be, I think it's debatable. I think the developer believes that it's not significant, so.
Is he going to own the homes?
They're going to build, the plan that I saw, they're building 10-foot high retaining wall in front of the home, something like that, for flood protection.
Yeah, when the levee broke in Marysville area, the 20-foot wall of water went there, so.
But it would reduce the floodplain of the American River. And so it could affect the levees downstream.
Like,
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll keep you informed on this.
Thank you.
Project.
So commissioner comments. Anybody have a comment we need for tonight? I've got a couple if nobody else does.
I've got a quick one. About a year ago, Folsom changed their backflow permitting requirement in their ordinance. And they went to almost a completely online system for both the inspectors and for the permits, because during COVID and everything else. And I know the EMD has a program for. In fact, they monitor and maintain the program for Sacramento County for backflows. I'm just wondering if the EMD has actually looked at what Folsom did and did a cost benefit and said, well, you know what, we might be able to save a couple bucks here. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I don't know if they've done that.
Thank you, John.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you for bringing that up. It was something I'll definitely look into. EMD is looking into moving its database. And so that is something that we could look into in terms of we'll be changing over from an Envision style database to another one. And I would definitely like to look at what Folsom has and see what we can, what efficiencies it has and see what we can borrow. And the goal is to make it easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mean, if they've already done the footwork and everything else and it's working for them, I mean, they may have all the pieces for you already.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
So I have one item, and that is, should we send Laura a card for her father and maybe some flowers?
Do you have news?
I don't have any news. No,
Okay.
I don't, just to get well card.
That would be lovely.
Do you have one? Because I can
get one.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to send flowers, I'm happy to contribute. Does everybody know about Laura's father?
I don't think so.
Should we not be saying anything?
No, we'll just let it rest. We'll send a.
Okay, we'll let it rest. He'll get better. The other thing I wanted to mention is some time ago, we talked about our annual December luncheon. Somehow we missed that. Do we want to try to schedule that?
Yeah, you put that in my court, and I was gonna look at the patio reservation. So I will do that tomorrow morning.
With that, I have nothing left to say. Oh, good.
Stephanie, you raised the topic about the SCC promoting maybe the Board of Supervisors to support passage of, was it AB 2026, or was it another bill that you had thought about? Were you going to follow up on that, or did you need some help on that, or what's the status of that?
Yeah, I was hoping I think that we were planning maybe to discuss it at next month's meeting if we have time in that agenda. I didn't put anything together yet because I've had a really busy work schedule for the last few weeks, but I'll have time prior to next month's meeting if we want to discuss it then.
Okay,
we can put information together.
Thank you.
A quick question. John, do we have your email address? Okay, Jill can give it to me. I can send you that invitation.
So anything else beyond saying our next meeting's here on May 16th at 6, both by Zoom and in person?
How do people like this meeting?
Yeah, that's right. What'd y'all think? How was this meeting? Do you like it?
That went well. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say the EMD facilities for conducting a meeting like this are great, except that I think the screen needs to be about 150 inch wide to get the, so.
Okay. I'll look into that one.
Yeah.
Great.
They not even tell me. Okay, with that, I guess we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Right.